I gave Symphogear G a 7 out of 10. When I was getting back into anime a couple of years back, I got into a call and watched Symphogear with someone I knew at the time. What followed was a chaotic few hours of the most nonsensical plot ever, which I described at the time as enjoyable until it becomes Kingdom Hearts plot. Sorry, KH fans, the plot is not the strong point there. Since then, though, I've had a few friends recommend I try picking it up again, and I don't particularly like dropping shows entirely so much as just putting them off for ages. So it was about time I got back to watching it. I watched with one of the friends who'd recommended it, who's been rewatching the series, and I told him I'd decide on whether to watch GX with him or wait a while again until after I'd seen G. And as it is, I'll probably watch GX soon. I can't say I was exactly enamored with Symphogear G, but I've been told the seasons get better as they go, and G is worlds better than the first season was. The funny part is that it manages to be better by just doing what the first season already did, but just committing a bit more to the bit. It still doesn't quite commit enough, though, with some characters and plot points feeling like they contradict the message the rest of the show is trying to deliver. Before we get into the details, there are likely some spoilers ahead, both for Symphogear G and base Symphogear. At its core, Symphogear is a show of unlimited optimism. Hibiki is determined to see the best in everyone and everything, and that attitude starts to spread to the people around her. Symphogear G picks up in much the same way, with Hibiki approaching every conflict with the intent of talking things through and becoming friends. That's where Symphogear shines most. I'm not typically a fan of over-the-top friendship will save the day shows, but if you're going to write that story, go full force on it. Throw aside any shame or inhibition and make it so the people have no choice but to get invested in that story. Oddly enough, that's where Symphogear still falls down, unfortunately. When it does go in on Hibiki being an unlimited source of hope, while also occasionally being called out for her naivety and simply not caring, it draws you in and wraps you up in whatever it's spinning. Most of the time, it does that fantastically, and the world is built in such a way that almost every character is redeemable in some way. One antagonist in particular, though, is just an out and out villain. Their motives are entirely selfish, they go out of their way to antagonize and hurt others for seemingly no reason, and there are zero attempts to talk with them and understand where they're coming from because there's no rational starting point to begin with. It stands at odds with everything else the show represents, and it takes all of that hope and optimism and makes it feel like naivety again. How can you talk so confidently about believing in everyone and then ignore it entirely when it's convenient to do so? Outside of Hibiki, the cast feel a lot stronger than the first season too. Tsubasa plays something of a side part in Symphogear, but Chris definitely feels like a more complete character, really growing into her role from the first season. The new characters are great too. Kiriko and Shirabe are a little lacking, but they play off each other and the rest of the characters well. And Maria feels like the most complete character in the series so far. Her story is also one of the few shining moments of good narrative in a show that makes it abundantly clear that that's not the focus. Which does pull me back to the biggest problem with the series. Two-thirds of it feels like they're fully committed to the world and the themes, but the other third is just nonsense. There's an entire episode that revolves around a failed negotiation that has zero impact on anything. A character gets attacked as part of it, and that's the only relevant scene in the entire episode. Better yet, you don't even see the attack. You just get some cliffhanger setup instead. I'm not even going into the global broadcast about the Tower of Babel moon base that mentions the Illuminati. I refuse to go further into that one. The plot doesn't make sense, they don't care about it making sense, and the more time they spend on it, the worse the show feels. Talking of hope, though, I'm at least a lot more hopeful for the rest of Symphogear at this point. A lot of my concerns after watching the first season were lessened by this one. I don't think it'll ever be a favourite of mine. If it sticks to Symphogear plot, I'm not gonna like major elements of it. And if it disregards the plot entirely, it'll feel too one-note. But I can at least enjoy my time watching it at this rate, and that's a pretty drastic improvement already. If you liked this video and want to read more of my reviews ahead of the video releases, or if you'd like to support me in making these, check out the links in the description, and I hope to see you here again for the next one.